you for staying with us, or should I say thank you for joining us since we're just starting. Now, recently, bandits abducted no fewer than 287 pupils, and I wonder if they put those pupils in their pockets. From a primary and secondary school in Kuriga, a community in Chikum local government area of Kaduna State. Days later, they abducted some Sangaya students at Gidambakuso in Gada local government area of Sokoto State. It's a school that combines Islamic and Western education. Nigeria experiences one of the highest rates of kidnapping for ransom globally. And to buttress that point, between July 2022 and June 2023, that's a space of 12 months, no fewer than 3,495 people were abducted in 582 incidents across the country. That's according to a report by Lagos-based risk consultancy SBM Intelligence. Now, to look at this kidnapping business with us this morning, I'd like to welcome two security consultants. Mr. Mike Ejiofor is former director, Department of State Services. Good morning, Mr. Ejiofor.
Good morning.
And we also have Sheyi Adetayo, a security consultant. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Now, Mr. Ejiofor, let me begin with you. This thing has been going on now for a long time, and it seems to be getting worse. And the temerity with which they even take place is another thing entirely. So can you just talk to us about the underlying social, economic, and political factors that have made this thing continue? Mr. Ejiofor?
Yeah. The issue is this persistent kidnapping is quite disturbing to every well-meaning Nigerian. And if you look at the socio-economic impact on the country, it's really huge. One has now come to realize, even though we didn't start now, that kidnapping, as it were, has become an industry because people use it to make money now. You recall that we used to have robbery. You hardly record incidents of robbery now, except in the suburbs where you have burglary, housebreaking, and all these things, where people's property like TVs are removed. The quickest way to make money now is through kidnapping. And because it's not been fully checked, people are encouraged to go into kidnapping. But we have three types of kidnapping. We have the political kidnapping, where political opponents are kidnapped. You have the economic reasons. Then you have the religious aspect of it. What is going on now in the north, like this mass kidnapping, is both religious and economic. In the south, you have the issue of economic and political. That's like in the southeast, where you have the IPOB. They use it to get money, and also for political agitation, especially people who don't support them. They are kidnapped, money is collected, and eventually killed. But the most disturbing aspect of it is this mass kidnapping of school children, because it discourages parents, especially in the north, from sending their wards to school. And that will be helping to further their interest, the interest of the perpetrators of this kidnapping. The people who come out to say that Western education, like Boko Haram, for instance, that Western education is forbidden. And they seem to be pursuing that agenda. and that is quite disturbing. As we move on, I think we'll look at the other issues, how is being handled, government efforts and the people's efforts, the citizen participation in checking this menace.
Let me quickly follow up on that, Mr. Ejiofor, before we go to Mr. Adetayo. There are those who would say some of these issues that you have raised, in fact, we've had quite a number of people talk to us on these issues and say, look, it's primarily the failure of intelligence. And we all know, at least primarily, that one of the major functions of DSS is to provide what you call actionable intelligence. Do you agree with those who say that it's failure of intelligence that occasions these things?
Well, I don't agree with that. There's no failure of intelligence. I can tell you that intelligence is quite available. In fact, not only intelligence provided by the State Security Service, the communities also raise alarm because at times you see these bandits or terrorists coming up to give notice that they are coming to such communities. But the problem is the issue of capacity of the enforcement agents, the police, the army. These people come in large number and fully armed, more armed than our security agencies. And they don't have rules of engagement. If you confront them the way they are, that are just coming in, despite the fact that we don't have the capacity and capabilities, that is, I'm talking of our security agencies in handling this thing. If you engage them the way they come in large numbers, you have a lot of collateral damage. Look at the issue of, at times I sit down and begin to wonder how such numbers are moved. Are they moved by food? Are they moved by vehicles? Are they moved by trekking and all this? It causes for a lot of concern, when such huge numbers. You remember this started in 2014 with Chibok girls, and that's very, very disturbing. Okay,
well, there are more issues on that one. More issues on that one, Mr. Ejiofor. Let me let's have Mr. Adetayo's opening comments on this matter. Well, Mr. Adetayo, you've also been in this for a while. We just understand now that between July 2022 and July 2023, about 3,500 people were abducted in 582 incidents across the country. Don't forget that we can say, well, for whatever reason, maybe this was because it was an election period between July 22 and July 2022 and June 2023. But then even in this year alone, we've had some very disturbing cases. 200 moved at some point, almost 300 children moved at another point, some 15 people in Sokoto, and a number of people also in the FCT here and there. Are there tracks? Are there things, features, common features to all of these things that might help us to resolve these things? Or we're just playing drama?
Thank you so much. Let me start by saying that even election is the reason why those figures were even low. Because normally it is believed that during election period, criminals are actively engaged in politicking, so they do less of crimes at that period. So if it hasn't been for the election, the figures that you had will have been higher than that. And I'm afraid to say this, that in coming months and years, the numbers are going to increase, and it will continue to increase. The reality of our situation, we've been talking about this for a long time now, and it seems that we are not ready to do the right thing.
So, Mr. Adeta, I thought you were going to follow up immediately with the reasons for your belief that these figures are going to increase.
Yeah, it will continue to increase because all that is on ground are measures that are temporary measures, momentary measures that can only address a particular incident or cases. We've not actually done what we need to do to address this issue from a national scale, to address it, from national outlook. Now, let me say this categorically. No government in the world has been able to solve problems like this using conventional means. And as long as we are using conventional means to solve this problem, we will continue to have this problem facing us and increasing. We've been talking about this for a long time. I remember as at 2014, I've been on TV talking about our approach. And our approach are predictable. Let me give you an example. Look at the problem that is happening in Plateau State. The solution that was brought about was go and establish a division in that area. And that is predictable. It is the military style. Will it solve the problem? It's an intervention, but that does not have the solution. And as long as we continue to handle issues using the military style, the common thinking. Now, let me tell you this. The current service chiefs, they are brilliant people, but they are not more brilliant than those that have been there before them, that have not been able to solve it. All the solutions they are presenting now are not different from the solutions that have been presented before them, only that they are all wearing different garments at this time, but still providing the same panacea that cannot solve the problem at this particular point in time. And the last time I was on TV, I spoke about what we need to do. Now, let us look at this. For proper governance in a nation, rule of law must stand. And rule of law means that everybody must obey or must be guided by the law. And that will help us to be able to establish law and order. When we have law and order, we can guarantee security. It is when the security is guaranteed, that is where the economy can thrive. And when the economy can thrive, that's why you can talk about, the social well-being. We came about schools, a safe school initiative, and everybody went on the street jubilating that there's going to be a solution. And I said it then, safe school initiative is just an intervention, cannot solve the problem. Let's look at our schools. The schools are majorly the way they have always been when the society was safe. Major schools, most of the schools in the north, they don't have perimeter fencing. And the children will be going to school, coming back home safe. Today, we are talking about how do we protect the school. If the community is not safe, is not protected, if the killers are lurking around in our forests, in our communities, it is not only the schools that will not be safe. The palaces are no longer safe. The royal fathers are being kidnapped. They are being killed. The worship centers are no longer safe. Worship people are being kidnapped there. No part on the road. You cannot even travel from one community to another without you being afraid of being kidnapped. It's not just about the school. It's about the problem that is facing us, saying us right in the face, and we're not looking at how we're going to solve it. All the interventions we have made, an intervention that can only provide temporary relief and not solve the problem. Now, the last time I spoke about the need for government at this time to declare the national emergency on insecurity in Nigeria. And I'll give you an example. You see, World War II wouldn't have been able to come to an end if the leaders at that time did not take unconventional measures to stop the war. Roosevelt was president before Truman. And it was when Truman came in and he said, you know what, I'm going to do something different to end this war. And he did it. If government is not ready to do something different now, and one of the things they need to do right now is to call the National Assembly leadership. If you can make a law, amend the Constitution to change our Electoral Act within 3 months, then you can make a law, number one, to review our criminal justice system, where it takes 10 years, 5 years to prosecute a kidnapper. The laws are there. You kidnap people, you carry gun, you die by firing squad. Or nobody. And I heard the last time, in the last 3 years, show me one kidnapper arrested with gun, arrested in the course of kidnapping, that has been prosecuted and they're sentenced. None.
So let's ask that's a very good point, because a number of people have also raised the same issue, Mr. Disa. So let me ask Mr. Ijo for that particular question. Is the issue of consequences. People are wondering, these things will continue if there are no consequences. There are those who are even alluding that maybe because, you know, some of the things that are happening here, they are done or perhaps even staged by people who have one influence or the other. The former governor of Zamfara State, who is Minister of State for Security, made a comment at the time that some powerful people were behind some drama that happened, you know, when he was governor and they kidnapped some students. The Minister of Solid Minerals has made a comment along the fact that some people are behind insecurity in mining communities. Just recently, the Minister of the FCT also came out and said that some kidnapping cases, just about 2 days ago, that some kidnapping cases are sometimes staged. We have also heard the essay to the president on media and publicity saying that some kinds of sub-regional forces are trying to destabilize the government. If these things are known, what are the consequences that we should be talking about here? Is it that the laws are toothless, or the people to enforce the laws are toothless?
Yeah, yeah. Mr. Adetoye raised a lot of issues, but most importantly is the issue of consequences. He has asked a question: how many people have been successfully prosecuted since then? In the past 10 years, how many people have been successfully prosecuted and convicted? That's about consequence. He also raised the issue of Safe School Initiative. I recall that in 2014, $10 billion or thereabout, or 10 million, was budgeted from government and private partners. Raised another 10. Now, what is the position of that? Who is accounting for that money? What has that money been used for? How many schools have been fenced? Because these schools, like you also said, they don't have perimeter fencing, and that makes the school very vulnerable. Lack of consequences in action, corruption. Like it said, and God forbid, that if we don't kill corruption, corruption will kill us. Look at what is happening in the National Assembly. That's by the way, because that's not what we're discussing. But I'm talking of consequences of action taken. All those budgets that are being presented for irrelevancies should have been channeled to security. What is it? This year, for instance, we have the highest budget in terms of security. But if you look at other subheads in the budget, you can see that there's so many irrelevancies in the budget. So we need to review that, apart from consequences for our action that are lacking. Now, you look at the budget as I was speaking. How much welfare for the staff of the security agencies, employment, training? Because if you don't get these people well equipped, we are heading for disaster. We need to review our strategies. We need to look into, because without security, without conducive environment for businesses and economic activities to thrive, people will be running away. Industries are being killed, people are discouraged, people don't go to farm. So there must be consequences for our action. If we must move forward, we need to change tactics.
Mr. Jaffa, let me take you back a bit to an earlier question about intelligence. You said you didn't agree that it was a failure of intelligence. I mean, if the security forces do get intelligence that such and such a place is going to be attacked, or kidnappers are going to show up and do their thing, how come forces are not deployed to that location? Because their presence alone will deter the kidnappers in one way or another. If 1 or 2 or 3 of them are taken out, won't that send a strong message to them that the security forces are not playing, that they mean business.
Yeah, you see, like you rightly said, if it's a lack of intelligence, if you recall that at times when such information is obtained, such intelligence, military is deployed, the police is deployed to such areas. But again, I've talked about capacity of our forces. And once they know that these people are deployed, because the intelligence have been provided, they go to another area, diversion, they go to another areas for attack. So it's like I say, I continue to emphasize that it's not the issue of intelligence that is lacking, but the capacity of our action agencies to carry out their duties, which of course is no fault of theirs. If you look at deployment of technology, if we deploy adequate technology in these areas, you should be able to see the people when they are moving in. But they operate in the forest. When they are moving in, you can deploy the Air Force to go and attack them because of their number and the sophisticated arms they are carrying. But these are lacking.
Okay.
Where is the light to operate all these, the electricity to operate all these gadgets?
You know, Mr. Jaffor, there are those who would say these things, my apologies for butting in, there are those who would say this thing is in the purview of complaints. But let me ask Mr. Adetayo, if he agrees, if you agree with Mr. Jaffor on that particular matter, saying that, you know, first of all, it's not in the capacity of the individuals, but in the technology or facilities that they need to get things done. He's also talked about infrastructure as one of the reasons that we're unable to curtail this trend more than 10 years now. Do you agree with him?
Well, Ayo, let me say, yeah, I don't disagree with him, but we have critical issues that is missing. You see, have we been deploying technology? We have. It cannot be enough. And that is one. On the issue of intelligence, there's no way DSS will know if an uncle is planning to kidnap his niece because he wants to extract money from his cousin, or you know, these are things that are happening.
So you think that a DSS official will not know if someone or a group of people are going to kidnap 200 people or 300 children from a school?
Say, Ayo, if kidnappers today want to kidnap 1 million in Nigeria, they would do it successfully. The solution is not about gun most times. So let me Ayo, hold on, let me give you an example. We're having similar situations in the US where people will go to schools with guns. And what did the US government do? They came about a school safety program where they bring in school, I think intervention officers, you know, and when people were complaining that guns are being brought into school to kill children, you are permanently bringing guns into the campus with police officers there to protect them. When the solution actually is remove guns from the society. But no president in the US is ready to offend the Fourth Amendment. And that is the issue. The issue we are having here in Nigeria, the solution is staring us on the face. But we need president that will say, I am ready to move away from the unconventional. And now let me give an example of what I said before. The last time I was here. And the solution is this. The president needs to call the National Assembly leadership and say, you know what? Our criminal justice has to be reviewed. We need to set a separate court for this. And we want prosecutions to be done within 3 months. You arrest, you are caught in the act, the laws are there. These are the courts, employ more justice.
Mr. Adetayo, while I understand what you're saying, my apologies, I understand what you're saying, what I understand the Police Act to say, one of the primary functions of the police is to prevent crime, not to fight it. To prevent crime. So how are we doing in that regard? Add also to the fact that we've also talked about, you know, some infrastructure of government, soft infrastructure of government. That if the security apparatus of each local government was functional, they would arrest the issue before it happened. So I'm talking about, the thinking here now is about prevention. You said it the other time, Mr. Adetayo. We had a life like this before. We didn't have to go this far. But now there are those who are complaining that the local government administrations are not even working. They are not even effective in the first place. Consequently, it opens us up more to these vulnerabilities.
Ayo, you are talking of an ideal situation, an ideal environment that when those laws were made, were to protect the people. One thing we are missing here is that Nigeria is at war, internal war. We have non-state actors, every part of the country. We have soldiers deployed in every part of the country. We have military operations taking place in the north and the south, everywhere. And then you are still thinking that we're still believing that we're in an ideal nation where the content of the Nigerian Police Act and our constitution as it is now can provide the required safety for us. We continue to deceive ourselves. We are in a war situation. Tell me, a country that is at war, ask, is a Ukraine constitution or their police act, can it work in the present Ukraine? Because they are at war. We need to change the way we do things.
Mr. Adetayo, why I understand what you are saying, and I understand your perception. I understand your perception, but I'm saying this. Look, we're at war. We're at war. We are talking about budget padding. We are talking about some people going away with $3-point-something billion, and we're at war. Mr. Adetayo, come on. Governors, just a second. Governors, state governments go to the FAC meetings to collect their allocations on a monthly basis, and we're at war. If we were at war indeed, if we are seriously at war, and it's something that only the federal government can handle, how come the state governments still have the time and whatever it is to sit at NEC meetings to collect allocations for their states and local governments, and the monies are not deployed for the things that they are supposed to do? We understand that each state government, or whether it's a state governor, I don't know, collects what they call security votes. What do they use those security votes for? And we are still at war? I need some understanding.
You are still speaking to the same thing that I'm talking about. We are at war. Corruption is at war with Nigeria. Inefficiency. You know, we are trying to tear ourselves apart. It is a national calamity that we are faced right now. And we need to take, you see, talking about, I gave an example the other time, that no major, successful event in the world has been made without somebody doing something unconventional. And that is the reality here. And everything starts from the top. The Mr. President started his term by taking a radical action. And I'm expecting that I know that he has the capacity to move into the next stage now and take a radical action that will permeate through the fabrics of the entire nation as we speak now. Now, coming back to the issues of security, you see, there was a time here when I tried to break this whole thing down. But the truth is that if we don't get the criminal justice right, no intervention that we make can work. Because the people that are benefiting from this will continue to benefit, will continue to put in more money because they will make more money to frustrate our action until we get the rule of law and the law and order right.
Mr. Adetayo, do you think
making everybody to answer for what they have done?
Mr.
Look
Adetayo,
at our prisons, for example.
With all the information that's gone out since, at least that I am aware of, and that's still in public domain, since 2001, and prominent Nigerians are saying that we know the people that are behind it, we're going to name and shame, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Are you saying that by any chance that the people behind these insecurity are unknown?
They are known.
So what is holding us down? What is holding us from dealing with them to arrest the situation?
You are coming back to what I said. We need to do the unthinkable right now as a nation, and it has to be led by the leadership. We must hit the nail on the head. Somebody must be able to be the Truman of Nigeria. There must be somebody right now, and we're looking at the president to say, you know what? We've been using this same approach all this while it's not working. It's not giving us. See, let me tell you something. When President Buhari came into power, his belief was that he was going to solve this problem, and he meant well. But the reason why, as at the time he finished 8 years after, the problem became bigger than the way he met it, was because the people that were advising him were still giving him the same pattern of solution that the predecessors were taking. Only that those solutions were wearing different garments.
Okay, let's ask Mr. Geoffrey what he thinks now as we wrap this particular conversation up. What, in your opinion, should we be looking at now? You've spoken to the need for energizing the security agencies and security apparatus more. He has spoken to the need to adjust the criminal justice system so that we can manage the consequences better. How about the security operatives? All of them, at least 13 that we have. How about collaboration? Because those complaints still come from there. There are those who also say that at the top echelon, they don't have a problem. But when it comes to the foot soldiers, there is the challenge of execution of some of these initiatives. What should be done, if we're going to deal with these issues in that direction?
Well, as a follow-up to the question you asked Mr. Adetayo, first of all, you must identify people behind this. The people in the forest are just foot soldiers. They are being sponsored. And even though I'm not supposed to make that statement here, a lot of the sponsors are under investigation and observation, which of course the SSS will not come out to tell you. And that's why I'm encouraged too by the statement made by the president that no dime will be paid, although that has its own implications. No dime will be paid. And that means changing of strategy. And we cannot continue to encourage these people, especially this mass abduction of students. Let us see how this is going to work. Like it's always said, that if a blind man tells you that he's going to stone you, is that holding the stone in his hand or is matching it? So for the president to come out to say no dime will be paid, no government encourages that. Now for the operatives, I think so far there has been synergy, cooperation among the agencies, which of course is what expected if we must win this war. Let us also get involved, get the citizens involved in participating in this squad we are facing. We should not leave it to our security agencies alone. There's no way in terms of manpower, in terms of equipment, that they can, but they work on the information of the people. So the people also need to be mobilized, to be security conscious, know their environment, and support our security agencies. That's one of the best ways that we can move forward in fighting this scourge, which is threatening the stability of this country. And our politicians who are involved in some of these things, either they are making money out of it and this thing, should also be aware that they are being watched. And the long arms of the law will still catch up with them.
So, Mr. Geoffrey, in closing, what long-term strategies do you think that the government needs to employ so that we can bring this to a halt? Yeah,
the long-term strategy, we are talking of immediate solution to our problems. But the long-term, I've always emphasized, is localizing our security architecture. We need to amend our constitution. Like your colleague there said before, every state has its own security vote. Virtually all the states in this country have their own vigilante, and this could be formalized to state police. We need to get this architecture in place so that they know, the people who know the environment should be able to assist the federal forces, the security agencies, to ensure that they collaborate again. Without it, although some people have criticism for establishment of state police, But we cannot run away from it. I think it's one of the best ways to solve our problems by localizing our security approach.
Mr. Adetayo, your last word, please.
Okay, let me close by saying this. Some time ago, someone was arrested, some band of criminals were arrested in Ogun State. And the criminal looked at the police officers and said, I know you, and I'm coming back for you. That is the level of boldness that criminals are having in Nigeria. They know that they will come back, and they have been coming back. And some of them are actually running operations right from the prisons until we begin to make people to answer for what they do. This will continue to fester. Thank you.
Well, before you sign off, because I know that it's time to sign them off, just to let you know that there are some people who are interested in this conversation and they have responded to some of the issues you've raised. Mark Onju says via an email, thank you for your valuable contributions on the subject. But please, what use is a fence around a school in an isolated settlement in Nigeria? Taking out a fence made with cement blocks is too easy and does not offer any protection to the schools. Let us not think that the criminals we are up against are naive. As from Macron, the second one says, I would like to remain anonymous. When Boko Haram has been recruited into the when Boko Haram have been recruited into the army as repentant members, how can the military operate without these repentants giving information to their
cohorts? Thank you very much, Mr. Seyi Adetayo, security consultant, as well as Mr. Mike Ejiofor, former director of the Department of State Services. Thank you for sharing your insights with us this morning.
Well, just to also know, I don't think the military is going to take kindly to the fact that some people believe that Boko Haram members have been recruited among their midst, because I remember that conversation came up before. So let's just put that out there. It is what some people believe. It is not the truth. But because when things don't seem to be going in a particular direction, people tend to fill in the gaps, you know. So there are no Boko Haram in Nigerian military. Let's just put that out there. But that is what people believe, and it is not the truth.
Okay, but some of them have been forgiven their sins, and then what happens to them?
Reintegrated into society.
Okay.
We do not have records that I don't think the army is going to take them back.
Okay. Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Please join us.